All right, so now we're going to talk about flowers in 2021, and I will probably do the flowers that I'm going to do in 2022 all in one because I'm just going to do 5. I have not been a big flower grower, but I started trying to do more of that this year because we got bees, and I realized I don't have a ton of flowers for them. I got bees specifically for pollination in the garden because I had some pollination issues last year. So I got some beehives, and I felt like I needed to provide more food. So this year, some of the things that I had in my garden was Portulaca. Now, I've always had some Portulaca because Portulaca really takes the dry NC heat of summer, and it is great for containers. And so I always have Portulaca in the big cement pots around the pool because it's cement on cement. It's hot, it bakes in the sun, and Portulaca is about the only thing I have ever found that can take that. So I always have Portulaca there, and I often will have it in containers around the front porch and steps too, just because it does take that dry NC heat. And so if I forget to water it or we don't get enough rain, it doesn't kill it right away. So Portulaca, I will always have some around. Cosmos was a new one for me this year. I grew it late in the year because I bought some seeds on, I believe, clearance. And I think these came from the dollar store, actually. But I planted them like mid-year to try to get some before fall. And they were so soft and dainty and fairy-like, and they were just sweet little splashes of color in the garden. And I wish I had done more. I only did a few just to kind of fill in some spaces in a tray of things I was seeding out, and I wish I had done a whole bunch so it was more like a little cottage vibe. So I will be growing more Cosmos this year. One thing I did do this year is mid-summerish. I did a second round of sunflowers and did these Aztec zinnias. Some people say zinnias. I don't know how it's actually supposed to be. It looks like zinnia to me. Anyway, so I mixed the Autumn Beauty sunflower, which is also in my top 5 list. I love sunflowers. And so I really enjoyed the color of the Autumn Beauty sunflower. So I did a second round. I had all my yellow sunflowers in the beginning, and then I brought in the Autumn Beauty sunflower. I planted it mid-summer and surrounded it with some Aztec zinnias, and even threw in some Texas Hill Country okra seeds. And I didn't get a ton of germination, and I don't remember how heavily I seeded it. I don't think I did a ton of seeds. So the bed I did it in was facing the driveway, so I had the idea that I would see it when I pulled in, and then it would be the first thing that you saw as you approached the garden. And it was not heavily done, so it looked a little scraggly, I would say, but the flowers that did come up were beautiful. The zinnias were beautiful. The Autumn Beauty sunflowers were gorgeous. So I want to do that again, but just plant it heavier and maybe bring in some more color and stuff just to give it some diversity. So those were 2 favorites for this year. So daffodils. Never been a huge daffodil fan, but that was because around here all we had was the one, just the plain yellow daffodil, and then we had a few of the white with the yellow center, and that was all that was around. That's all my mom's ever really planted. But I discovered some different varieties over the winter last year, and I don't have the name of it. I will have to look and see if I can find it, but it was something to do with the wedding. It was like the wedding crown or something like this, and it looks a lot like this replete, except instead of more an orangey center, it was like a yellow on white, very roughly in the center. Absolutely beautiful. Loved it. I had some others planted that did not come up. I did purchase them late, so they didn't go through the winter. And I've bought some more this fall. As you can see, like these are not planted. But we have been so warm, I don't know that it really matters. We're not even getting cold until probably next week, and it's the 50s. Like, it's not even that cold. So I'm going to go ahead and get these in the next few days and see if they do something. Last year, I didn't get anything out of the ones I planted in containers. I did get the daffodils to come up in the beds that I put them in, but I did not get the tulips to come up in the beds I put, which were in kind of the same beds. Now, I do have to admit that my chickens like to get in those beds and dust bathe in them. And so they kept digging my bulbs up, and I kept replanting them. And then I put like chicken wire over them and like held them down with rocks and stuff. And so some of the daffodils did grow up in the chicken wire, but the tulips never came up. So I don't know what happened, but I'm going to put them in the garden this year and not just the flower beds where the chickens can get to them. I will put some in the flower beds, but I'm going to put them in the garden beds. So that's just going to kind of roll us right into the 2022 flowers, because I really want to up my game on flowers for 2022. I do want to improve my landscaping. I've never really been big into flowers and landscaping. I always like beautiful landscaping, but I just have kind of managed what I had, and just done like azaleas and knockout roses and some bush type things. I've never really gotten involved with actually placing perennials and annuals and that things. I've just done containers and more bush type things. So the past couple years, I have been putting things here and there. I have been planting mums that have started coming back. I put in some blanket flowers and some cone flowers and some Shasta daisies that have come back, and some yarrow, and some phlox, and things that have started coming back, and I'm starting to see some definition in the beds. I love them, but some of the bushes that I put in have just kind of overwhelmed the landscape, so it's gotten a little bit out of hand. So I need to get that under control and put in more flowers for the bees, and things that maybe my chickens can't dig up. So I'm going to try to do some of that, but I'm also going to put in more flowers. So one of my ultimate goals, which I will talk about again, is to do some cut flower areas and have more flowers this year. So in 2022, I am going to add more tulips. I did buy some more, and hopefully they'll come up, because I absolutely adore tulips. So tulips and more daffodils, more unique daffodils are on my list this year. Dahlias, I love dahlias. I think they're beautiful. They scare me a little bit, especially when I see people talking about having to dig up the tubers and split them and store them and stuff through the winter. So I'm a little intimidated by dahlias, but I am going to try some dahlias and see what happens. And I will be learning more about them through this year and through this process. I am a very hands-on learner. I can read about things all day long, and I do retain it, but I don't feel comfortable with it until I actually do it. So dahlias are on my list. And there is a guy nearby me who is a florist, and he also has a small flower farm where he mostly does dahlias. So I am hoping, fingers crossed, to get to meet him and talk to him. So we'll see if that happens. Another one I am going to do this year is the Mongolian sunflower, and that is not this one. I thought I grabbed the right one. This one is the Mammoth Gray Striped, and I actually did this one this year and did not have any germination on it. So the one I'm going to do is the Mongolian Mammoth sunflower, which I did in 2020, and it did fantastic. And I actually saved a bunch of seeds from it. So I'm going to do that one again this year. I planted it in the corners of the garden and by the chicken coop, so that way when it got really big, I could attach it to the fence. And so that's where I like strategically placed it in certain places. And I think I had one in the middle, but it was at the corner of one of the cattle panel trellises. That way I could tie it off. And it was so fun because my deck is really high and it looks out over my garden and all the land. It was so fun to see these big spears of sunflowers facing the deck. and I could look out over it and see down on it. And then when you're in the garden and you're looking up, it was just so whimsical to me, like something from Alice in Wonderland. So I really want that structure in my garden this year. So another one, I don't have the packets for it. They're in the drawer somewhere. But I want to do things like bee balm and lavender, alyssum, anything that really attracts the bees. Again, I am trying to do flowers to feed my bees and to bring the pollinators in. And also, I just love the idea of having more beauty in the garden. I've always planted marigolds and pansies in with some of my vegetables for, 16 years. I've always put pansies near my green beans and always had marigolds around to help with pest issues. So I've always had some flowers mixed in, but planting more the past 2 years to bring in the pollinators has just really made my heart happy. I guess it's just spoken to my soul to have that beauty mixed in with what I already find is beautiful in the vegetable plants. So I really want to do more of it. And then another thing I'm doing again, I mentioned I want to have, a cut flower patch, but I also want to mix in more zinnias because I really enjoyed the zinnias. Last year I planted, was it the carousel stripes? And those were really fun. And then it was a giant California mix. They were just like some generic mixes I got at the store. But this year I did plant the Aztec, which was really nice. So I want to plant all the different zinnias. So these are some that I picked up this year. The Canary Bird and the Polar Bear were 2 free ones from Baker Creek. So I'm excited to try those. And then I bought the Purple Prince, which is just a beautiful color. And I'm really excited about the Queen Lime and the Queen Lime Orange, which I think will be beautiful going into fall. So, and I know they have like a Queen Lime blush, and I think a Queen Lime red, but the blush is always out when I go on there. So I'm excited to try some of these zinnias, and I will probably find even more and maybe do like a whole row out in one of the gardens or a whole bed of them. I don't know, but I really am excited to up my game for flowers this year. So that is my 2021 recap on flowers and my plans for flowers in 2022.